to a colonized people of this country.
We are actually the next government in Zimbabwe on account of the feedback we have been having. People are fed up. People are tired of this old system.
Zimbabweans head to the polls on the 23rd of August in the country's general elections. These are the second elections since the country's longtime president, Robert Mugabe, was removed from power. There are 11 candidates, but the contest is fierce between two men, the incumbent Emmerson Mnangagwa of the Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, or ZANU-PF party.
Yeah, everyone who knows Mugabe should automatically know Mnangagwa. Because the Mnangagwas were the operators of Mugabe. When we are talking about Emmerson Mnangagwa, we are making reference to the same first generation of nationalists in Zimbabwe who took arms and fought the liberation struggle.
And main opposition candidate Nelson Chamisa of the New Citizens Coalition for Change, or CCC.
A new great Zimbabwe!
When you look at Nelson Chamisa on the other hand, he's a charismatic young man, a firebrand politician who has got a lot of potential. He also comes from this post-student politics movement, firstly in the Zimbabwe National Students Union, ZINASU, and then later on conscripted in the mainstream politics of the Movement for Democratic Change, MDC, which was led by the former late firebrand trade unionist Morgan Tsvangirai.
Mnangagwa is seeking a second term after he beat Nelson Chamisa in 2018 in a tightly contested election.
It is a less competitive election in terms of the incumbent's political positioning is concerned, in the sense that it is competing with an opposition party that has been mainly disorganized for the past years in terms of putting structures in order.
Zimbabwe has had a bumpy political and economic journey since independence in 1980. In one of the defining moments of Zimbabwe's history in the year 2000, Robert Mugabe announced a land redistribution policy that saw white-owned farms redistributed to less privileged farmers. This put Zimbabwe at loggerheads with Western countries, and in 2002, the European Union imposed sanctions. The United States of America also took a similar measure. Once a breadbasket for the Southern African region, Zimbabwe had its agricultural output dropped significantly. In 2008, Mugabe won a highly contested election. After deadly post-election violence, a unity government was formed in 2009, with the opposition leader Morgan Tsvangirai becoming prime minister. In 2017, Mugabe was ousted and replaced by the current president, Mnangagwa. Now, the campaign atmosphere is heating up ahead of elections.
We have come to discover that each and every election, there are sensational claims that are made by either party. Remember, campaigning also implies decampaigning. The opposition will make utterances to say there is rigging. The ruling party will make utterances that there is an active plot of regime change. These are utterances that are made. But to what extent can they then be proven to a point that they can be found as some forms of legality that can be used to overturn an election or to undermine its credibility? It is something that, leaves one to wonder.
There are currently about 6.6 million registered voters, most of whom are young. According to the World Bank, Zimbabwe's youth, those born after the country's independence in the 1980s, constitute more than 60% of the total population.
It's one thing for the youth to constitute the biggest political voting demography. It's another to then try to pinpoint that to issues to do with electoral dynamics and political participation. So politics in Africa is still a preserve of old men and women. There is a little participation of youths. The youths who are still on the periphery serving for their vote. So having said that, that's one aspect. Then the other aspect is that, as I have pinpointed earlier, the youth bulge in Zimbabwe, we have failed as a nation to capitalize on that kind of demography to then influence political outcome.
So, what are the issues that will feature in these coming elections?
I hope that whoever is going to be the winner is not going to be a winner take all. He's going to make sure that whatever he's promising or she's promising is going to fulfill that, and also make sure to engage.
I wish the president or the government or the state to provide us with maternity wards, quick health services to be offered to us.
We are seeing that the situation is a bit calm, though, like I said, we have some incidences of political violence, but those are isolated cases, if I may say.
The first pressing need, of course, is the economy. The economy is not performing. A government must not be in the habit of giving motivational speeches to the people. It's not the duty of government to motivate us that one day things will be better. No, that's for pastors. Politicians cannot come and motivate us. But this is where we are in Zimbabwe. Politicians are motivational speakers. So the economy is not performing. People do not have jobs. There have hardly been any jobs that have been created for, I don't know since when, because we have someone who was born in 2000 and is 23 years old. He has never seen a pay slip.
While there have been successes in revamping the country's infrastructure under the current administration, the country still struggles to attract international investments.
While there have been these very predominant challenges that, of course, the current administration inherited from, the colonial structural setup, you cannot ignore the reality of some reforms that have been done in terms of the health sector, some reforms that are ongoing in terms of the transport sector, in terms of even our ports of entry, in terms of even the health sector. Yes, the impact may not be as huge as anticipated by a greater part of our people, but there are some notable things.
There is also the issue of sanctions.
Sanctions, they deprive the much needed ability and capacity of a country to borrow money. And this money which would be borrowed is not money that you would expect that only the elites will show that money. No, it's money that is meant to cushion up certain public services, public goods.
Other issues include women's representation, which remains low despite women constituting the majority of the population and traditionally the biggest number of voters. There are concerns about the political atmosphere given the country's history of political violence and intimidation.
The Zimbabwe Republic Police has put in place a cocktail of measures to ensure that the elections are held in a conducive environment that facilitates free, fair, peaceful, and credible elections.
To win the presidency, a candidate must get more than 50% of the vote. If there is no outright winner, there will be a runoff between the top two candidates in 2 weeks. Zimbabweans can only hope once the polls come and go, the next leader will bring unity and prosperity.
An election should bring happiness, not anger and animosity, but just to go on the social media, how Zimbabweans demonize each other. Zimbabweans, they are in desperate need of someone who brings happiness. I think the next government should actually consider a minister of happiness.
Wait,